Doing? Let me get my microphone lined up here. You know, I'm watching a stream in this game because I was blacked out in the greater Tampa Bay area. Consequently, that's the reason why I unfortunately am behind schedule. Sorry about that. Hey, welcome to the Postgame show. How is everybody doing? I want to be able to let you know how you can be part of the program today, and I am going to put a link right now into the chat room. And if you want to be on the show, here it is. And all you have to do is click on it. The thing that's beautiful about this system is that there's no validation. There's no app you have to download. None of that. All you have to do is click on that link. I'll put it in again because I'm just that kind of cow. I'll even put it on the goddamn screen because I'm that kind of cow. That. All you have to do is just click on it, man. Or just copy it and put it into your browser. It'll transport you into the studio. And you can be a guest on the program. Seriously. That's the way it works. This doesn't surprise me. There's my buddy Jake. Hi, Jake. How you doing, my friend?
Wonderful, wonderful.
Good. And see how easy it is? He just clicks on it and bang, I click on him. If I don't want him on here, I just say, get out of here. And if I want him, I bring him back. It's that simple. Yeah. My fucking show. All right, I'm sorry. And of course, here's Bronco-matic. And there's Bronc is in England, so as you understand that it's very late where he is.
Actually, it's very early.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but that's the fun part of all this, you know.
3:50 in the morning.
Oh my goodness, that's a real Browns fan, you know.
Instead of kidding, dude.
An absolute Browns fan. You got to love that. So, we're here to talk about who flashed, okay, in this particular game. And we'll start with you, Jake. Who stood out positively for you?
Well, sadly, it was our kicker and punter. Ironically. Good field position. And four big field goals, you can't complain. So, sadly, special teams were the highlights. So,
yeah, I mean, and again, we're going to get this. There's can make it. Yes. Something. Cindy Johnsons are supposed to stand out.
It's supposed to be hard too.
Yeah. Yeah. A hard man is good to find. Ron Shane, Lawrence, absolutely flashed.
God, yeah.
Does this performance for the Browns O-line and Baker Mayfield cause any concern? Defense was on a tear in the first half. What was more of a concern to me is their inability to run the football. Kareem Hunt looked like he had an explosive start, but was just running into a pile of humanity out there. So that is a concern. And honestly, like we said at the half, the slow receivers were out there. There didn't look like there was a lot of chemistry. It looked like the timing was disrupted to me. That's kind of what it looked like to me. So am I worried? No, because we ran a vanilla offense. If it persists in game one against the Titans, I'll be concerned, And Chris Harwell, you are correct. The defensive line did its job and then some, and really without Myles Garrett. So that was a really good sign. And Derek Frisbee is misspelling his name, but Siebert, you're hired. The funny thing here is that he got every kicking opportunity today, as Gillen did too. And don't you find it strange that a veteran like Colquitt is sitting out game 3 so that Gillum can kick? I mean, what do you guys think, Bronk? I mean, people thinking that Gillen is the punter now. Do you think?
Well, it's unusual. I think it could be that the Scottish Hammer maybe make the team because he could also be a backup kicker in case the kicker gets hurt. So, he was punting well today. His hair was flowing well today. So, Colquitt may be playing for another team. I don't know.
Well, Ken is making a good comment. Colquitt was the field goal holder. Well, that doesn't. Well, I mean, and there you have it.
I don't know what to say. I don't.
Well, who will hold for the field goal kicker if it's not him? I mean, I don't think Gillum's going to make the team.
Yeah, it could be Colquitt and Joseph again. This could all just be a big smoke screen.
Honestly, and I felt the same way. There were no checkdowns in this game whatsoever. If that's what Baker Mayfield was working on during the preseason, we didn't see any of that. Hunt was not used in the passing game whatsoever, and nobody was checked down to. The tight ends weren't being used. He kept trying to force the ball into Jalen Strong, who's not fast enough to get downfield, who showed weakness in this game. And now I have real questions about whether Jalen Strong is going to make this.
You know what it looked like? It looked like that string last year where we lost 4 games in a row, and Hugh Jackson was still the coach, and Baker was trying to throw the ball to Jarvis Landry the entire game. Because he's trying to throw it to Higgins the whole game, and it just wasn't happening. And the balls were going over Strong's head. And I really can't stand Demetrius Harris. I mean, if it was me, he wouldn't be on the team. But I don't decide. It's probably just as well I don't. But
the economics, Michael Gradowski aside, somebody has to hold for the field goal kicker, and Colquitt's your holder. And you're not going to put a rookie kicker out with a holder he hasn't worked with all preseason, assuming that Siebert makes the team. Look, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced of anything. And his performance today was fantastic. Couldn't have been better. And I hate Greg Joseph, but I could see as a 5th round pick, he's going to become the kicker. But Colquitt will be the punter.
Yeah.
I think they're going to cut Gillum, and I think Gillum is going to get a job in the NFL as a punter. I think that based on what people see of the strength of his leg, he's going to get that shot. And I think what they did is what a class organization does. That's an audition. That is exactly right.
It was a good faith effort to show he is an NFL player.
Yes, and I hope that he does land a job, and I think that he'll be an early cut so that he will make a team someplace. I think that's a good thing. So if you want to join these guys on the air, I know it's late at night and some of you are remiss in doing so.
Can't be as late as it for me, bastards.
I'll continue putting the link into the chat room. It's different when we do these post-game shows at 4:30 in the afternoon than we do them at 11 o'clock at night. But again, this is what I promised fans this year because there's so much hope with this team. The people who really, I'll tell you who flashed for me. Again, was Johnson, Dearness Johnson. This guy, north-south runs. He's got quick feet. He's got some of Duke Johnson's wiggle, but he's a little bit stronger built, and he can return kicks. And he looked like he can catch the ball out of the backfield, too. I will be very disappointed if Dontrell Hilliard beats him out for a job, because from what I saw, Dearness Johnson can move in tight spaces much better than Dontrell Hilliard. And I agree, Michael. I mean, and I hope, Mr. Fergus, DJ Montgomery is gone, period. He is injured reserve. He ain't going to make the team. So,
I mean, what do you do from there? Because Willie's didn't show out. I didn't see a receiver show out. I think Strong might have stayed even. I didn't see anybody that could be a last of the options receiver. I mean,
they were really covered though, and they didn't get open. And I don't know. I mean, Baker was overthrowing the ball, so I don't know how you judge that.
I mean, I think Higgins could have caught the one in the end zone. I do think that was one of those I think OBJ could come down with. I do think there was one right. I mean, not right in his hands, but he probably could have come down with that ball.
Yeah.
And Melati 44. I want to see more Sheehy Giuseppe. No, he's not. He's there.
He might make the practice team.
Yeah, I mean, and even at that, I don't know. He's very small, and he doesn't serve a purpose.
It looked like when he came off after one of the kicks, he hurt his ribs again too.
That's
a possibility. Kind of walking a bit. He's walking a bit like how I walk when I'm like 40 years older than he is. So.
Yeah, I don't know who. Nobody flashed at the wide receiver position for me. It was fighting for a job. Jalen Strong was weak. Willie's was weak, in my opinion. Neither of them has the kind of breakaway speed. And you see the problem for the Browns. Antonio Callaway, who may not be the greatest polished receiver in the world, has that gift of speed. And we don't have other receivers. Too many of our receivers who are below level are possession receivers and are not guys who are going to beat people. These guys could not beat press coverage. Plain and simple, they were not getting separation. So that really hurts. But again, I was hoping that somebody would come out of that mix being ahead, and instead it just looked like we had
gotten worse. It got worse.
It reminded me of the 1999 Browns when we had no speed at the wide receiver position. There was never any separation.
It looked like all of our preseason games before Mayfield started. It looked like when we had no receivers, and we had Jake Delhomme, or we had, Garcia or Colt McCoy. It looked like all of those preseason
I don't think the strength of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is their defensive secondary, but it sure looked like it in this game. And so that tells me that these receivers weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. But, and what I found even more interesting was that Freddie kept his first-string front line in the second half of the game for Drew Stanton's drives. And Drew Stanton, the team's going backwards. Greg Robinson with 2 offensive holding calls against him. And that's not something we want to start seeing happening.
It was better he did the holds instead of letting the quarterback get absolutely moored like he would have done. So, I was you could look at that way. In fact, the offensive line threw out Rondé Barber because he accused Corbett of that really horrible snap that, went over Stanton's head, and there was actually Tretter who did that. So,
yeah, well, he was taking lessons. He was taking lessons from Corbett, Yeah.
I'll tell you who I was really disappointed with, which other people may or may not have noticed, but I thought Mac Wilson was shit today. He was in the wrong position a lot of times. He was over pursuing. He allowed quarterback discontain. He allowed tight ends running here, there, and everywhere, and running backs, and he was like a day late, $1 short. He had some tackles, but he looked Schuerger has nothing to worry about if Wilson's going to be judged against today's game.
I agree. Really poor. He let that slot receiver totally juke him when there was 4 guys around him. It was, the guy turned, caught the ball, and the guy didn't even make the tackle when the guy had his back turned. So
he was really
it didn't look good for him.
Bad angles, and here's the thing. I mean, there's a reason a guy drops to the 5th round. The guy can probably make big plays, but how many does he give up? If he's guessing out there at this level,
he's guessing a lot. It looks like.
Yeah, that's what it looked like to me too, and you can't do that.
And speaking of dropping, they played red wine with like 2 minutes to go. What does that show right now?
Well, red wine. And he hurt his shoulder, and
he did get hurt. That is very true.
And he's not going to make the roster. And I'll tell you, all kinds of bad things can happen. And you saw Blaine Gabbert going off the field with what appeared to be left hand damage.
Well, it looked like he separated his shoulder, I think, but he did, it was either his wrist or his shoulder went.
Yeah, and it was such a bizarre non-contact play. It's like I thought he fell on the football. Yeah, very strange.
Yeah, he was holding the football, and then it was that shoulder that went.
His reaction looked like something fractured. I mean, he had a very visceral reaction to that. Depth is great. Did Lawrence pass Coley on the depth chart? These are questions. Jake, did he?
I don't know how good the second team or borderline first team is for the. I can't say that right now.
Jesus,
I wait till Gronk has that. Yeah, I don't know how good the second team and tired first team is, but I mean, I don't know. The question is, do we have the depth? I think he can fill a role for a period of time. That is a great positive. So,
well, what I like about Deverell Lawrence is that he has burst off the snap.
Yes, he does.
And he's the kind of guy who can give you a pass rush from an interior position on the line. And he's a guy who, if you keep him fresh, he might be able to beat some people quickly off the line and do some damage in spot roll duty. If you're in a pass situation and you want maybe an interior lineman to do a little bit more pressure up the middle kinds of things, maybe Trevon Coley is a guy who's better stopping the run. I don't know. But Deverell Lawrence was all over the backfield, and he has been in the few times I've seen him play. Here's an interesting question. Could you see the season being a complete failure? What are your minimum expectations for the team this year? I would say my minimum expectation is 9-7 in contention and maybe falling short. Look, Baltimore and Pittsburgh are veteran teams in their own ways, Pittsburgh especially. And both Pittsburgh and Baltimore are in the top 12 as far as power rating in the NFL, ahead of us. So, you might get the emotional odds as to why the Browns are favored to make the playoffs or whatever coming out of various betting sites. But the people who are putting up the information of what teams are strongest all have Pittsburgh and Baltimore stronger than Cleveland. I would be upset if we did not crack 500 and go 9-7. I would not consider that a complete failure. I would consider it maybe a case of heightened expectations because of media hype. And the thing that you don't know is who gets hurt and who doesn't. Because if Baker Mayfield gets hurt, then we will be a sub 500 team and we'll be out of it so quick it'll make your head spin. So I don't look at this team as being a complete failure, but at the same time, there's always a scenario that can hurt a team. It's not like we have a backup quarterback.
Can I highlight a question? D. Period asked. I think he's a new viewer. He asked if the kicking competition is solved. Do you think we have a kicker right now?
Well, I mean, I think we do because I watched Greg Joseph all last year, and I saw everything I needed to see about his inconsistency and his uncertainty, and nothing in this preseason has changed my mind about him. The thing about Austin Seibert is that he's a young guy. He's under pressure in his first camp, and he's got the weight of the fifth round on his shoulders. I would make him my starting kicker because I know what I have in Joseph. And if I can buy Seibert, who's got a better leg, distance-wise, if I can buy him some confidence by giving him the opportunity, we could make him a better player. because it's all about confidence. When you're talking about place kicking and field goals, it's jitters versus confidence. And Greg Joseph, to me, is a jittery kicker, a lot like Parkey was when he kicked for us.
Oh, God.
Jittery kicker. And we can't, it's funny, Moose Boy Sheaton did okay. I never heard of him before the game. I mean, did anybody see the other guy with the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with the guy from Tulsa? Did anybody see?
Well, Fernando? No, I didn't see him out there.
Number 66 on the line. I didn't see him out there either yet. He's number 2 on the depth chart. I can't figure that out to save my soul. And I think that Gilbert does look better than Stanton. And again, the thing that kind of concerns me about what I looked at today is Gillen got all the punts. He's not going to make the team. Blau got into the game and Gilbert did not, and he's not going to make the team. And Siebert kicked every kick. I'm not going there, okay? Right now, I don't have a crystal ball, but I say that Siebert should make the team. But it's hard to say who sits and why they sit. If somebody came up to the coach and said, "I feel a little achy," then Nick Chubb didn't play at all. Whatever. Yeah, it's. But I don't know that the kicking problem is solved, D. I think that maybe what we have to do is a little bit clearer now. And again, if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Matt Gay just missed a 37-yard field goal by clanking it a la Greg Joseph. So what are you going to do between he and Cairo Santos? What are you going to do? So I wouldn't be surprised if Gay, who has a bigger leg distance-wise, but if he's not accurate, may have played his way in a dress rehearsal off the team because he was ahead in the race in Tampa Bay for that position. That's what I saw too, Mr. Fergus, that Blaine Gabbert was holding his hand and wrist. And that, he was like this, and it was almost like this whole area. And that is, if he fractured a wrist, I think it was his left, though, that he was.
It was his left,
grabbing. Yeah, okay. So it wasn't his throwing arm. Not that Blaine Gabbert ever had a throwing arm, but still. I mean, look, he's a former starter in the NFL. As a backup quarterback, he's better than Drew Stanton. All right? Let's call it
he
like
looked a lot better than Winston did, for what it's worth.
Yeah. And Tony is trolling you there, Bronk. So, and he knows about fapping. Yeah. The punting competition was never started, D. Gillum is cut, and Colquitt is your veteran. Colquitt has one of the finest records of balls downed inside the 10-yard line. If it was all about a cannon foot, but there has to be some nuance to a kicker too. And I think Gillum will get his chance and his opportunity.
He's a perfect player, no doubt.
Yeah, and I think that I hope that happens for him. Because he's trying hard, and I'm getting verbal seconds on that here.
Audio's a little weird. I don't know who's lagging, but
whose audio is lagging?
I think it was yours, but it could just be mine being trash. But I'm not sure.
All right.
Chat tell us that one.
Dorian Baker didn't get both feet down, but where he was positioned, I don't see how he could have. I really don't see how Demetrius Harris goes up, catches the ball in his hands, and comes down with both feet when he's a big, gangly blocking tight end. And the catch that Higgins went for, you'd expect Beckham maybe to make, but I'm not so sure that. None of these balls were easy, and there were people draped all over these receivers. So, and this is why Derek is sick. Again, you go from 0-16, how jaded some of us become. You go through 0-16 and 1-15 and 7-8 last year, and you're going to make a statement like this? Eat a dick. My goodness. I mean, there's so many things that can happen during the course of a season, really. I honestly believe that there are some things. I think Murray looked like a deer in the headlights in the beginning of the game. It looked like the coverage got a little better, but the coverage always gets better when pass protection breaks down and you sack a quarterback 6 times. Jameis Winston, I don't know. If he were mic'd up, he would be saying, okay, I'll give the crab legs back. He was like really seriously being pressured. And
can we say ass raped? Or is this a family show? Yeah, he was Vernon ass raped him.
Yeah, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. My feeling is that there were plays where he had time to throw and he couldn't find a man open downfield. Now, and I think that is, and there were cases of receivers flashing wide open in front of him, and he was not taking what was underneath. He was trying to force the ball down the field. That's what got him into a kind of a little altercation with Byron Leftwich, the new offensive coordinator there.
That was Perriman that flashed in front of him like 5 yards downfield. Now, would you throw it to him knowing he could go, bah, nah?
Well, Brashad Perriman, if he's going 8 yards down the field and he's in full stride, he's fast, and assuming he catches it.
Exactly.
But still, I would take that shot rather than trying to force it into a guy late and just trying to, throwing a duck out there. I don't know what. I think this is Tony's prediction for the Vikings this year. That's really
wow.
That's what I said to him. Yeah.
You're very welcome, D. You're very welcome. I love seeing new viewers on the program. I live for it. In fact, and again, offensive line. What I'm concerned about more than anything is that there was pressure up the middle against the Browns that was forcing Baker to throw the ball high. Baker is not tall. And, if you saw him when he's able to get his weight moving forward and he's in the pocket, very dangerous, and he can escape the pocket and see the field well. But in a play where there is simply no backfield blocking in and it's 5 men out, if you're allowing pressure up the gut, it's difficult for him to throw that ball over the middle of the field where he likes to throw it. So, and this is a good point, a good name for him, because his kicks knuckle. They do, I swear to God. He kicks the ball in the middle of the ball instead of on the bottom of the ball. It doesn't have proper lift, and it just wobbles. It's like a knuckleball. Very strange.
Like that.
And if Santos gets cut, should we pick him up?
No.
Not now. Not now. I don't think the organization... Look, if they gave Austin Corbett this year to prove how lousy he is, because he was a second-round pick, you take a kicker with the fifth-round kick when you have Greg Joseph as your starter, no. Siebert has to make this team at this point. He has to. And if it doesn't pan out, it doesn't pan out. But at this point... Nobody's going to say we just fucked up by making a fifth-round pick. Remember, Mac Wilson's the fifth-round pick. I mean, you could have gotten a real football player. If you acknowledge that Austin Siebert doesn't have the heart or the guts or the nerve to kick for the Cleveland Browns, that's a bad start. It really is. This is a scary thought, Bronk.
I commented on that in the private chat.
Werewolves of London. It's.
You ready to do a lot of walking?
And There was zero play from Dontrell. He actually did return the first punt. He did come in and catch it on the bounce. But no, there was nothing from scrimmage. And if nothing else, Dearness Johnson has an opportunity to show himself to the league. It's a good showcase for him. But I would prefer him, from what I've seen. He's a more well-rounded back than Dontrell Hilliard. So, now they're saying, okay, Cindy, that it was Gabbert's left shoulder. Good call, Bronk. Good call. Because it looked like he was holding his hand and wrist to me, too, to be honest with you.
I think the way he fell was hard enough that it popped his shoulder, dislocated it.
Now he's saying the same thing, that my audio's out of sync. That's not such a good thing.
I think it's both of us, because Derek's the same for me. So
yeah, I don't know what the deal is, but
yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, we're both probably lagging a little bit.
All right. Well, I'm sorry about that. Again, this is what we're using here is a beta application called StreamYard, and this will be something that we talk about, and we'll see what comes out on the final YouTube video too on this. And I think everyone's seeing something different. Yeah,
there's no issues besides some individual spots from individual views, I feel like.
Yeah.
Based on chat.
So, and Tony has a place to stay. I didn't know they allowed people to sleep in the parks in London. Here's a good question. What do I think of these challenge calls on pass interference? I think that it was necessitated because of an incredibly bad call in the playoffs last year that cost the team a game. And what they're doing is, I don't think in any game in the preseason was one turned around. Okay?
I don't think they're ever going to overturn one because it just makes them look bad. So I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
It's really egregious.
Yeah.
That's a keyword.
I don't really know that you break it down, you can call interference on any number of plays. I'm not convinced, really, that...
Here's a question for you guys. Should we be concerned about Freddie Kitchens' play calling yet, or was it just because it was the preseason?
I don't know if that's his playbook yet. I don't know if he's hiding anything. I don't know if he's trying to get what is comfortable with all 4 units or all 3 units. I'm not sure yet. I mean, preseason is tough.
Because if that was a regular season game, that was shit. I think we can all agree with that.
I would agree with you, yeah.
Yeah, Magnum Cox, I don't know of any interference call that's been overruled and overturned this preseason, no. So, and it does take a long time,
Magnum Cox. It's like hard Cox.
Now, again, it might be where they're viewing. Magnum Cox is saying his audio is synced. So everything is in sync for some people, maybe out. And Nick is saying it's fine on his end. So it may be a bottleneck where some of you are in the country that you're getting some lag. It's really hard to say because I don't know the architecture of StreamYard. I don't know exactly how it all works. So at any rate, I think one thing it's safe to say. I think Gillum gets a chance to try out with another team. Right?
For sure. Yeah.
And that's great. I think Greg Joseph goes away. I think Devereaux Lawrence makes the roster. I think Dearness is going to have a problem, even though I wish he were the one, because Dontrell Hilliard has been hurt, and the coaches really seem to like Dontrell Hilliard. As far as the offensive line, the right side is weak. Hubbard is not great. And,
the past 8 years. This is the story right there.
Yeah, and Nassib blew by him, and that's really all Nassib could do when he was in Cleveland, was kind of loop around. He was kind of a limited pass rush guy. He did very well when we played them last year. Again, Nassib was good at batting passes down. He wasn't a sack master in Cleveland.
Here's a comment from the sexy Mary Kay Cabot. Kitchen says it's not even remotely possible the starters will play in the fourth game.
Right, and I agree with that.
No.
There's no reason. No reason.
Absolutely.
I mean,
but Mary Kay obviously asked him, so there you go.
Too many bad things can happen, and there's no reason for it. I think we're all good with where we are right now. I think that.
I think we had so many sacks. I mean, let's talk about Olivier Vernon and his abuse of Jameis Winston and what do we have, about 9 sacks in this game?
Yeah, it was it was like 6, I believe, but there were so many more pressures beyond that.
What's the stats here?
It was 6 sacks. Cindy Sanders said so. Yeah. Look at that for us.
But
thanks,
again,
Matt, by the way.
Yeah, how many games are you gonna get 10 of 26 from Baker Mayfield? I mean, this is not a good offensive game. And I will tell you this. I mean, when it's 80 degrees outside with 80% humidity, and I told you about this in the pregame show on Moohead Radio, that I live down here, and this is the hottest summer we've ever seen. And we're getting heat indexes in the evening in the 90s up to 100 degrees in the evening. So this is something that the players would not necessarily be used to in Cleveland. So you get people in and out. You got to shuttle them in and out. But next week is the final call, and the final special teams roster players will be it's make or break for.
Well, on the total yards, Tampa Bay nearly doubled us. We had 165. Tampa Bay 312.
Yeah.
The time of possession was nearly doubled as well. We had 24 minutes. They had 36 minutes. So.
And Michael, let's just say that Baker didn't wake up feeling dangerous. All right. I mean, I don't know that they didn't prep much, but when they kept running that 5 wide out with nobody in the backfield, empty backfield. I mean, it was almost like it's like, damn it, we're going to run this until we get this right, and they never got it right.
I think that was a lot to do with Baker just wanted to give the reserves or second team just a feel of the NFL football being thrown by a quarterback. I really do.
This has to be the oddest question I've received. The music that Freddie's been playing at camp. No, I don't think that was a problem.
I do not know what he plays at camp, to be honest. So
probably Tammy Wynette and George Jones. Who in the hell knows? But I would say that the team didn't look sharp offensively. They didn't look on
Baker had a
time.
quarterback rating of 30.6. So there you have it.
Oh, he was playing good old boy country music. That's what I figured he would be playing. And no, I don't think that would make a difference. I think that didn't see that the effort was lacking. The speed on the defensive front was tremendous, playing at a very high level and rate. But I'm not really at all convinced of the offense. It just seemed like we were just running a lot of the same sets over and over, and there just wasn't a whole hell of a lot of originality in it. So, again, they could just be doing that just to throw the Titans off.
Well, Higgins was targeted 7 times, had 3 catches. Willie's targeted 6 times, had 2 catches. Strong targeted 7 times, had 2 catches.
And about Willie's, did you guys see, I want to say, his second drop of the game where he dropped back and Baker threw it in the zone and Willie's overran that zone boundary right there?
Yeah.
And just threw out his left hand. I think that was a completion, and hopefully most first-team receivers communication. But that did not look great.
Add Njoku to the list we didn't see. So
yeah,
he's a mismatch guy on linebackers, so we really didn't get to see a whole lot of mismatches. The speed of the secondary was greater than the speed of the receivers. There's something crawling on your table behind you.
I cannot see it. I'm actually looking very closely now.
What table behind me? What are you talking about? Goodness gracious. Something crawling. You're on dope, man. I think this guy likes Sheehy.
Is he done?
Yeah, he's done. Unless Vince picks him up for the XFL, you know.
I mean, that is the story he needs too. I mean, book that angle right around him.
Yeah, well, what I know is this. In game 4 of the preseason, it just depends who you let go of the people who you really think have a chance to make it. You might hold on to somebody you really want in the practice squad. So, yeah, you might see people who are actually better football players get cut earlier just so that they can catch on maybe with somebody who's looking, and this is what you get from a 16-year-old who, I knew there was nothing crawling behind me because, you see, I'm looking behind me. Remember, the camera points this way? That's why you can see behind me. Forget it. It's way too conceptual. All right. I'm done. I've said everything I wanted to say. Hey, it wasn't the most exciting game in the world, but boy, that pass rush was sure stimulating. So I'm all for that. We haven't seen enough of that. Am I confident about the last question here? Am I confident about the kick returner, punt returner situations? No. I think that Dearness Johnson is the best guy at that. I don't think Sheehy Giuseppe can justify his presence on the roster as he's small and he doesn't fit the prototypical wide receiver. And as a punt returner, he's fast, but I kind of liked Dearness Johnson. I think Dearness Johnson is the best guy to be a backup running back, kick returner, punt returner. That's what I think. And I would settle for that now. So, good night, Roxanne Rocks. So, boy, she's going to bed early. I'm still up. Damn.
I'm still up.
All
right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in to this edition of the Browns post-game show. We are back again on Monday. We can talk more about this and see what unfolds, to see if anyone came out of this game scathed, hurt, or, what might happen and when cuts start happening and all of that good stuff. And, what we think might happen. Maybe we'll get something out of Freddie that will tell us why we were leaving the front line offensive line in for Drew Stanton. Was he trying to make Drew Stanton look good? Because it sure as hell didn't work. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back again Monday on Moohead Radio, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Thanks to you guys for jumping in and helping me with the post-game show. Get some sleep, Bronk, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, seriously, man.
Yeah, and seriously. Me too. I got to get to sleep. All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you again Monday. Good night.